How did a Jewish holiday become a celebration of resisting Greek cancel culture? Was the first Jewish-Greek war fought over a statue of Zeus? What was the little horn that terrified the Greek Empire? And why did some Jewish men try to surgically reverse their circumcision? Welcome to Not Another Greek History Podcast, the podcast that aims to be exactly what it says. I'm your host, Onoufios Dovlepis, and together we'll discover the not-so-frequently told stories of Greece's history that will change the way you view things forever. Hello and welcome back to Not Another Greek History Podcast, the show that proves there's always more to the ancient world than just city-states and philosophers. In this episode, we're talking about a conflict that erupted right at the crossroads of civilization, the Maccabean Revolt, a desperate struggle for religious freedom that defined the future of Judaism. For almost 150 years before the revolt, the Greek influence, or Hellenism, had become the air that people breathed in Judea. You could see it everywhere. Take the word for this very space we are discussing history in, synagogue. That's a Greek word, synagogy, meaning to bring people together. When the Torah is read, the speaker stands on a raised platform, the bima, which is also a Greek word. Vima is how we say it. It means step, a place where you step forward to address someone. Even Jewish people adopted Greek names. You had Jewish leaders named Jason, Menelaus, and centuries later, the infamous king Herod, which is itself a Greek name meaning heroic son, and there were many Herods. So all of that has to do with the influence of Alexander the Great from the 4th century BC onwards. And keep in mind, for example, Herod lived close to the birth of Jesus. That would be over 3 centuries after the time of Alexander the Great. So Hellenism wasn't just a threat, it was woven into the fabric of Jewish life. The cultural acceptance of Hellenism changed roughly in 170 BC, so 167 BC specifically, thanks to a single man, the Greek king Antiochus, C-H-U, Antiochus IV. Antiochus ruled the Syrian branch of Alexander the Great's fragmented empire, and he was determined to unify his kingdom under one culture and one religion, his own, the Greek religion, the 12 gods. He styled himself Theos Epiphanes, which means God manifest, but many of his subjects, including the Jews, nicknamed him Epimanes. Epimanes. There's only one consonant that is different. Epimanes includes the word mania, you say in English. So the madman. The conflict wasn't just about money or land. It was a brutal, full-scale assault on religious identity. Antiochus banned Jewish practices, Sabbath observance, circumcision, and dietary laws. He forced Jewish people to sacrifice to Greek gods. The ultimate provocation? His soldiers desecrated the temple in Jerusalem, setting up an altar to Zeus and sacrificing a pig upon it. This was the abomination of desolation. They also intentionally defiled the ritual olive oil used to light the menorah, the 7-branched lampstand, which was required to burn constantly in the temple. This oil had to be specially prepared and kept ritually pure. It was the act of sacrilege that finally pushed the populace beyond breaking point. An elderly priest named Mattathias, along with his 5 sons, the most famous of whom was Judah Maccabee, lit the fuse of the rebellion. The name Maccabee itself may mean the hammer. Now this is where a specific ancient text comes into play, a text that provided the intellectual and theological fuel for the resistance. The book of Daniel. Scholars widely agree that Daniel, though set centuries earlier during the Babylonian exile, was actually written right around this time, in the heat of the Maccabean crisis. It's a work of apocalyptic literature, and it served as a coded message of hope. Why was it so critical, though? The book spoke of a series of empires, culminating in a fearsome little horn that makes war on the holy people. The initial readers immediately understood the little horn to be Antiochus, the madman. The text assured the faithful that the oppression would last only for a time, times, and a half time, a specific limited period of suffering. This told the rebels, endure, this won't last forever. The promise of afterlife now. Crucially, Daniel provided the clearest, most explicit promise of an afterlife yet seen in the Jewish scriptures. I'm talking about resurrection. Multitudes who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake, some to everlasting life, others to shame and everlasting contempt. This promise fundamentally changed the cost of resistance. Dying for the law was no longer a journey into the quiet oblivion of Sheol. It was a guarantee of everlasting life and vindication. It fueled the zealots to fight harder than ever before. The Maccabean revolt was a success. By 164, Judah Maccabee and his forces liberated Jerusalem, cleansing the temple, and rededicating it, an event still celebrated today as Hanukkah. The first act of rededication, Hanukkah means dedication, was to cleanse the space and relight the menorah. The problem was that in searching the defiled temple, the Maccabees could only find one small jar of pure oil, enough to keep the menorah lit for a single day. It took 8 days to properly harvest, press, and prepare a new supply of ritually pure oil. The miracle that is celebrated today is that the small flask of oil meant for one day miraculously kept the menorah burning for all 8 days until the new oil was ready. The Maccabean struggle secured the independence of the Jewish people for about a century under the Hasmonean dynasty, but its greatest legacy is the way it cemented Jewish identity against overwhelming cultural pressure, empowered by a prophetic book that redefined the meaning of life, death, and faithful resistance. Now, earlier we said the Greeks tried to ban circumcision, and keep in mind that we in Greece do not circumcise. In the ancient Greek and Roman world as well, the uncircumcised male body was considered the ideal. It was the mark of beauty, civility, and masculinity. To participate fully in Greek society, especially at the gymnasium where men exercised in the nude, you simply had to conform to this ideal. This created a massive social stigma for Jewish men. To escape this pressure and participate fully in Hellenistic life, many Jewish men, especially during the Alexandrian period, starting around 333 BC, sought procedures to actually reverse their circumcision. This practice was called epispasm, or foreskin restoration. It was deeply controversial in Second Temple Judaism because religious leaders saw it as a profound betrayal of Jewish identity. In fact, this is why the practice of circumcision itself was changed. Religious authorities began removing significantly more skin to make that restoration process far more difficult. The situation turned deadly serious under the Greek ruler Antiochus IV, the Epiphanes, as we said, in the 2nd century. When he tried to force total Hellenization, he outlawed circumcision completely. The records from the Maccabean period are clear. Jewish mothers were tragically executed simply for circumcising their sons. Some Jewish men, seeking to save their lives, tried to undo their circumcision to avoid persecution. This tension over the body persisted for centuries, even being mentioned in the New Testament. And you see echoes of this desperate choice even in modern times, with some European Jews seeking restoration during World War II try and evade Nazi persecution. It shows how the body itself became a battleground in the fight for religious survival. The struggle of the Maccabees was not a simple tale of good versus evil. It was a messy, brutal fight to keep a core identity alive against an overwhelming culture. They did not just win a war, they permanently changed the stakes of being Jewish. They proved that a cultural identity is not just about what you believe, but what you're willing to risk. even when the pressure is to raise the very mark of who you are. The Hanukkah lights are not just a memory of a miracle, they're a testament to the power of a desperate, defiant no against an empire that demanded conformity. Thank you for tuning in to Not Another Greek History podcast. If this collision of Hellenism and faith sparked your interest, hit that subscribe button. We will be back next time to dive into the history of the Jewish people in Greece. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share. Until next time, this is Onufrios Dovletis signing off from Not Another Greek History podcast.